Hey guys, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and welcome to part 4 of my pop EDM production series in Logic Pro 10. In this video, we are going to create a delay feedback transition with our vocal track for the intro here. There's actually more to this transition. It's sort of like a transition buildup that leads into the first verse. There's actually a lot more to it than just this delay trick I'm going to show you. But we'll cover the rest of it in another video. It's just too much to cover in one video. As always, if you'd like to work along with me, the full multi-track session is available for download. There's a link in the video description below where you can download that. So let's get into this. So starting at about measure 17, if we listen to the original song, you'll start hearing this sort of build up, this sort of filtered, distorted, delayed vocal idea. Let me just play it for you. And then right when the verse hits, it goes away. So we're going to try to emulate that with just Logic plugins. The first thing we're going to do is on the intro Vox here, we are going to create another bus. So on my second send slot here, I'm going to create another bus or another send to bus 3. And then what we're going to do is the aux track for bus 3 will show up automatically to the right here. I'm just going to double click on that. I'm going to call this Vox Delay Transition. There we go. I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to go to create track, or you can hit Control T. And as long as you had your vocal track selected, it should create an aux track just below the vocal track. So then what we're going to do is pull the send amount up to basically 0, to unity. So I'm going to option click on it and it pulls it up to 0.0 dB. On the Vox Delay Transition aux track, we are going to put the stereo delay plugin, which is under delay and then under stereo delay, and that we should be able to choose stereo, but you'll notice that we have mono and mono to stereo. It's just because our aux track still has a mono input. So let's double click on the circle here, make it a stereo input. So we will choose the stereo delay now in stereo. The setting we're going to use for this, we are going to link the left and the right channels. So you just click on the stereo link button here. We're going to tempo sync it, and we're going to set this to a half note. There we go. So it's going to be a half note for the left channel. And let me unlink it real quick and change the right channel to a half note as well. So they're both a half note now, and then we'll relink them. The routing, we're going to use the ping pong delay. You can use the left to right or right to left. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to use the ping pong left. It'll just sound a little bit, different. It'll sound like there's more emphasis on one speaker as opposed to the other. We're going to keep the output mix at 100% for both of these. And let's listen to what this sounds like right now. I'm just going to solo out the vocals and then the delay track, and let's see what this sounds like.
Tell me how you tell me how you tell me that you need me, tell me that I'm everything you want me to be.
So there's a ton of delay in there that we don't want. Let's go back into our stereo delay plugin. Let's pull a lot of the low end out of the delay and pull some of the high end out of the delay. So let's do like 100 and actually do a little higher than that. Yeah, like 310 to 12,000. That works fine. We can also pull down the actual volume of the delay.
Tell me how you love me, you tell me that you need me.
Another thing that we can do, that it's not 100% necessary here, and it's a very subtle effect, but it's what I did in the original song to help aid with this effect, was I put a compressor on the Vox Delay aux track. So I'm going to go to Compressor. It's our Dynamics Compressor stereo, and I'm just going to use the Platinum Digital. I'm going to pull this down to the threshold down to about 30, the ratio up to about 3:1. I'll keep the knee where it's at. The attack will come down almost all the way, and then the release I'm going to turn auto off. I'm going to pull it up to about 1 second, 1K there. Turn off the auto gain, set this to 0, and leave that where it's at. But what we're going to do is go up to the sidechain option up here and choose the Vox intro track as a sidechain source. So what this means is that we are going to suppress the volume on our aux track of the delay, the wet signal, when the dry signal is singing, when she's singing. So the louder she's singing, the more that delay is going to be suppressed. The softer she sings, the more you're going to hear the delay. So it's very subtle because there's not too many gaps here, but in these little gaps where she's not singing, you're going to hear more of the delay than you normally would. So this is a trick I use a lot when I'm using delay with vocals that have like pretty wide gaps between the phrases as an effect. So you just more or less hear the delay when they're not singing. Here it's going to be very subtle to just more or less suppress it while she's singing, and after she's done, it'll kick in at full volume toward the end. So let's just listen to this as is.
Tell me how you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that I'm everything you want me to be. Tell me how I'm fearless. Tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad.
So you can see when she's not singing, there's no compression being applied. So you're more or less hearing more of the delay here, here, and here, and then at the end, just little points of the delay where it sort of pokes through the vocals a little bit. So that's just, again, a very subtle thing. Another thing I'm going to do to make the delay a little bit more ambient is I'm actually going to add reverb to the delay on top of it. So we're going to go down to Reverb, Space Designer, and the setting is the same setting we used before for the instruments. It's under large spaces, plate reverbs, and it's shimmering plate. We're going to set the dry signal to 100%, or almost 100%, and then the reverb signal, just a touch of it, because we really want to hear the delay coming through. We don't want to hear a completely wet reverb signal with delay running through. That's just going to be too much ambience. So let's see what this sounds like now.
Tell me how you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that I'm everything you want me to be. Tell me how I'm fearless. Tell me.
So that's just the delay by itself there. I unsoloed the original vocals there. All right, so let's get to the transition now. Starting at measure 13 and going all the way up until the verse at 21, we need to intensify this delay effect. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on my delay transition aux track here, hit A to pull up automation, and I'm going to pull down, I'm just going to click, and I'm going to pull down the volume a little bit more when she's singing, and I'm going to make sure that my snap mode is on bar. I'm going to make sure that my snap mode also snaps automation. And right on measure 13, I'm going to create a point. And then right on measure 21, we're going to create a point. And I'm going to pull the volume up a little bit. I may come back and adjust this a little bit, but let's put this about -1 dB. So as the tail end of this goes out, it's going to get louder and louder and louder. But you can hear that it's more or less just delaying out and then tailing down to nothing. So how do we get that delay to sort of loop in on itself and feedback on itself? Well, that's where the feedback options come into play. Now, one of the things you can do when you stereo link is when you make manual adjustments to the feedback, it adjusts both channels. For whatever reason, when you automate these, it only changes one of them. So we're going to have to automate both the left and right feedback up to 100% gradually, starting at measure 13 and moving all the way up to measure 2021. We're also going to pull the cross feed left to right and right to left up a little bit more, just to accentuate the feedback a little bit more. So let's start the feedback at 0 where it's at, and we're going to automate it from 0 all the way up to 100% by measure 20, 1 bar before the verse kicks in. So let's go to our automation parameters here. Let's change that from volume. We're going to go to stereo delay, and we're going to go to feedback left. And click to pull up the automation line at measure... Actually, let's try measure 12. Start at measure 12 instead. Click there. And then we're going to end this at measure 20. We're going to pull this all the way up to 100%. We're going to do the same thing for the right channel. So we're going to go to feedback right and do the exact same thing. DJs do this all the time live. They've just got one knob that's controlling their delay feedback, and they can just manually bump it up and then whip it right back down once they get to the next section. So here we're essentially doing the same thing with automation, but it's going to cause one little problem, as you're going to hear in just a moment here. So let's play this from about the halfway point.
Fearless, tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad.
So as you heard, after we got past measure 20 there, it kept feeding back in a feedback loop on itself. So we have to stop that from happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to both the feedback left and feedback right, and we're going to drop that value back down to 0 right at measure 21. The reason why we can't just drop the volume down is the volume only controls the signal of the track at the fader level, not at the plugins. So you'll actually still have signal like a heavily fed back delay signal going to the compressor and going to the space designer. We've just more or less muted it. So we're actually going to pull down the feedback for the left and right channels along with the volume all at once. So I'm going to turn off bar mode for just a moment. Right at measure 21, or just kind of, yeah, like right at 21, I'll create a point, and then right after 21, I'll create another point. We'll pull this down, just like so. Pull that over a little bit. There you go. And we'll do the same thing for the feedback left. Create 2 points. It doesn't have to be exactly in the same spot, but pretty close to where the left channel was. And then we'll do the same thing for volume. We may actually want to pull this volume up a little bit more because the intensity of the delay doesn't quite seem where I want it to be. And then the other thing what we might want to do is instead of using this sort of linear fade up, we may want to use a different fade shape. So let's actually go up to our automation select tool. Or not automation select, automation curve tool. And let's create sort of just click on that and pull down, create more of like an exponential or logarithmic sort of motion to it, as opposed to what we had before. And then what we're going to do is with the volume, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create another point here, and right at measure 21, pull this down quite a bit. There we go. So let's see what that sounds like just as is. There's one other thing I think we're going to do to this, but let's listen to the whole vocal intro with the delay.
Tell me how you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that I'm everything you want me to be. Tell me how I'm fearless. Tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad.
Cool. And then it cuts it out. Let's listen to that with the music in. But there's one other thing we're going to add to it real quick before we do that. If you heard the original, it's a little bit brighter than the original. Almost sounds like there's a little bit of like a drive or distortion on it. So what we're going to do is before the Space Designer plugin, what we're going to do is let's pull the Space Designer down one slot. And before Space Designer, we're going to add another plugin. It's under distortion. And the plugin is called Overdrive. So we're going to add Overdrive to that. And I'm just going to use the stock setting. I'm going to pull the drive down to about 2.5 dB, pull the output down just a touch. And let's see what this distortion sounds like now.
Tell me how you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that I'm everything you want me to be. Tell me how I'm fearless. Tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad.
Yeah, let's try pulling the crossfeed up a little bit more too and see if that helps.
Bad.
Pull it back. You'll notice if you start too late, the delay won't quite sound correct because it won't get all of the words in there.
Fearless, tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of drive, a little bit of distortion in there. All right, so let's listen to that with the music now.
Tell me how you love me. Tell me that you need me. Tell me that I'm everything you want me to be. Tell me how I'm fearless. Tell me I'm your weakness. You got it bad. You got it bad, so bad, so bad. You got me going like.
Cool, that'll work for now. One thing I did notice is that the read mode is on for my sub bass. I don't know why, so I'm gonna turn that off and pull up the volume on the sub bass just a touch. So there's actually a little bit more to that transition than just what we did today. There's some other things in there that are sort of fading in slowly and adding to the sort of intensity or the build up. But we'll do that in the next video. One other thing I wanted to address real quick though was someone asked in the comments, why is there a limiter on my master stereo out? That's just simply there just to catch any clips that we may have until we really get into mixing and getting the levels straight. It's more or less just for my end to make sure that my video audio capture for the video doesn't clip. So just for now, I mean, if you want to keep it on there, you can. If you're working along with me, you can take it off if you want. We're going to eventually take it off anyway. All right, another thing I want to just say about this is there's one sort of like manual delay where I take like one little phrase out of the vocals and we like auto-tune it and sort of like filter it, and it's like a manual delay. That will come back to in a future video as well. And there's also a swell in transition at the beginning of the intro. So in the next video, we'll probably address the swell in at the beginning and that little vocal echo, as well as the swell in into the verse. And then we'll maybe make a few more adjustments to the intro and be done with it, at least for now. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.